Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa Havers, and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs, and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode, we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs, and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership, and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to our episode that we have for you. I'm so excited. I am joined by the phenomenal Sara Vatore. Welcome, Sara.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Really happy to be here.
We are going to be talking about how to harness our expansion and contraction cycle so we can avoid the collapse and burnout. And I'm so excited that Sara is here to have this conversation because Sara is the owner of Soma Synthesis Studios, where she creates spaces for healing, integration, and expansion to cultivate wellness, vitality, thriving, and wholeness across all the layers of being. Oh, sounds just so incredible and transformational. And Sara does this through one-to-one somatic coaching, hands-on healing, somatic integration sessions, nervous system nourishment retreats, group workshops, dream work sessions, consultations, and so much more. And Sara lives in the US with her husband of 12 years and 2 boys. Oh, you're a boy mum as well. Me too. A huge welcome, Sara. Wow, there's just so much that you do and how you help people, and I would love to hear, because everyone's always got their a story behind what they're doing right now. So tell us about your journey. How did you get to this point in life where you're sharing your gifts in this incredible way?
Thank you. I always love this question. It's always funny when I answer it, right? Like the different layers in, the different threads in. But this is my 8th year in my business. And before this, I was a guidance counselor in a high school. And I stepped into that role and went, oh no, no one taught me about politics. No one taught me about these funky, tricky dynamics. And it was very overwhelming for my system. And I had always been, a very high achiever and a perfectionist and a doer. I got pregnant my senior year in college. So there was, I went from, good student to like good mom. And so there was always sort of this track that I was on. And when I sort of had this realization when I was at the high school, like, I don't know if I want to do the thing I just spent all this money on preparing myself to do. My father, who is an internationally known sports performance consultant and has been doing peak performance coaching with athletes for 40 years, was like, oh, well, why don't you mentor with me and train, and then you can start your own private practice. So that sort of like lit the spark. That first year I was in the school, I was there for 5 years of, oh, maybe there's an out, maybe there's a different way to do it. And through studying and training with him, I went through the somatic experiencing training, which is Peter Levine's work, where we're looking at our physiology and our bodies as mammalian survival mechanisms. And through that, I woke up to how shut down I was, but in that highly productive, overriding, can't stop, urgency, energy. And I realized, like, whoa, I am completely overriding and ignoring my needs. My body is breaking down on all of these levels, from momming and working and really ignoring what I actually wanted and needed in order to thrive. And so through doing that training, I started to like connect to my body and realize, wow, I've never known what I wanted or needed. I've always operated in this very box. like my parents want me to do this, my community wants me to do this, my friends want me to do this, my partner wants me to do this. So I bend and morph and twist and bend in order
Mhm.
to fit into those things. And so there was this huge awakening over those years of being at the school while I was sort of in tandem doing this training. And as the years went on, I was remember the exact moment. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I had written like my seventh letter of recommendation for one of my seniors, because I wrote letters for college. And I was like, what could it be like if I put all this focus and attention and effort into my own thing? Like I'm ready. And I took a medical leave at that point at the end of that school year so I could address some of the autoimmune things that are going on. And I never went back. I immediately started my own practice and stepped full-fledged into my work, where I do a lot of performance support for athletes and performers and entrepreneurs to overcome blocks and fears and really access potential. And then I do this other thread of working with other just busy humans and practitioners and healers who are wanting to learn about their nervous system and learn how to thrive without overwhelm, learn how to reconnect to needs when they've been so shut down for so long, and create spaces for that kind of magic to unfurl. And here I am 8 years later.
Oh, wow. And during those 8 years, you must have helped so many thousands of people. Because I always think when we're working with one person, it's not just that immediate person, it's all the people that benefit from the work that you've done together, their family members, etc. It just has such a huge ripple effect.
Yes.
Wow, there was so much that you resonated in terms of your story and how you got to where you are today. And one of the things I just wanted to kind of circle back to highlight, and because I know that this will resonate with our audience members, because it's something that I see as well, and is part of my own story, is that it was a period of ill health that
Yeah.
meant that I then had the courage and the sort of no going back. I'm leaving social services. This is it. I'm moving forward. Is that something that you see? Because I know it's part of your journey of like, right, I'm taking medical leave, I'm moving forward. There's
Yeah.
no going back. And of course, it's that ultimately a nervous system response with the body starting to collapse and shut down and to start to send us these warning signals. Because we've not been listening before. How do you see a pattern of people getting to that point where we want to stop people getting sick before they have the courage
Right.
to do the thing that they really want to do? Do you see, what are you seeing right now in terms of that sort of pattern of people
Yeah.
getting to that point before they move forward?
Such an interesting question, and I think I'd probably have a different answer like pre-pandemic, like because
Mm.
right now everyone is overloaded. Everyone is overwhelmed, who are coming and finding me. So I am, there is sort of, cohort of clients or people that find me because it's too much, because they're overloaded, because they are finally realizing that they can't live these ways anymore. So I do think there's often these catalyst moments of breakdown, of our body crying out. And I also think, when I first started 8 years ago, I was putting nervous system regulation on my website. No one knew what that was. No one was talking about somatics. No one was talking about the body in this way. With the exception of like, some big names in the somatic experiencing communities. And so now that I think somatic is a buzzword, I am finding, people are reaching out and saying, oh, like, I saw this thing about somatic movement. Can you tell me what that is? And what do you do? And is that the same, as the ads cycle through Facebook and Instagram? So I do think there are these catalyst moments that we have where we say to ourselves, like, no more, this can't happen anymore. But I also think, the pandemic brought new awareness to people around what's important and what they need and how they want to live differently, which then are, allowing people to search for those things and seek those things and have just new awareness that, oh, it can be different. And we just all stayed home and that was different. And so, how can I, step more into a life that where I'm thriving? because I think so often we feel stuck and trapped, particularly as moms. I have an 18-year-old and a 10-year-old. I homeschool my youngest. So, there's a lot of ways when we're full, our lives are full where we feel stuck or trapped. And then due to that, stuff breaks down in our bodies because we're ignoring things and we're not creating that space. So yes, I think people are coming when things break down, and then there's this new wave of people who are just realizing like I don't want to do the same old anymore.
Mm.
I'm really ready to make a shift and a change.
That's incredible that people are being able to get to that point before a serious period of ill health.
Yeah,
That is I think that is one of the sort of silver linings of the pandemic, of people really recognizing that sort of the whole world went on pause, and people really did. I mean, I was working continuously throughout it, but I know many people had
yeah,
that sense of kind of just some downtime, particularly if they've been in that corporate or high performance, professions, where actually they could just kind of take a step back and really reflect on life, and to really start to ask those questions, and to spend more time with family. That's what my
right.
sons always reflect back, is actually they realized the importance of family.
Yes.
And that's such a gift, early in your 20s, to have really had that revelation.
Yeah,
So let's dive into, building on what we started talking about, because I know this will really resonate with our listeners, as to how to harness our expansion and contraction cycles so that we can avoid collapse and burnout. Because one of the things I talk about with my clients is that these cycles are normal. It's like an example I heard from, I forget the book, but it was in a book where they were talking about the caterpillar, and how the caterpillar moves forward is through contracting and expanding,
oh
contracting and
yeah, I love
expanding.
that.
Isn't that
Yeah,
beautiful? Just makes
yeah,
it all normal, all
yeah.
normal. But we want to avoid the collapse and burnout. So I'd love to kind of just start to explore and hear your reflections and thoughts on this.
Sure. I love this conversation because for so long, I think for many of us who are high achievers or perfectionists, or, who are you have these thriving businesses and working to expand, also hold more financially,
Mm,
that we think that we just have to keep going. And I think, patriarchy and the way our world is set up, it makes us feel like we just have to keep going. And if we stop, or if we take breaks, or we pause, that's then going to interrupt this process of acquiring more, or like meeting our goals. And then there can be a lot of fear that then shows up in our bodies, and it's why so many of us have trouble stopping and creating space for rest. And what I found in my experience, because when I left my job, I was so burnt out. I was getting diagnosed right and left from all sorts of different specialists for different things, and my body was breaking down. And then when I started my business, I'm like, oh, I'm starting my business, like I'm doing this thing for myself. And like 2 years in, I was like, oh no, I just did the exact same thing that I did. I like had all this space, and yeah, I was doing my own thing, but I completely filled it nonstop with, I'm going to be on this board, and this person wants me to teach across the country, and I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to do this. And sure, let's like fill up the calendar. And I was making money, but I was tired, and my body was doing the same thing. It was breaking down in its funky ways. So I started to like look at and notice and track in my own system of like, oh, like I go to California and teach for 3 days. I can't come back on Monday and see 8 clients. Like that's just not gonna work. Like, and
mm,
I would fight it at first. My Monday I'd be in my clients and I'd be having a tantrum. In between my clients, I'd be like, what am I doing? I'm so tired. I'm so grumpy. Like, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be my thing. And so I started to build in like what I was calling recovery days after my travel, or after a big output, like if I was going to teach a big workshop, or like run a launch, or I have these one-on-one retreats that are weekends that I do for folks that are, it's a lot of my energy. I love them, but it's like I'm very devoted to the container, to the person, to the toroidal fields are creating together. And I need a day after, I need at least a day after that. And so as I created these spaces and started to play in them, so I'd travel and then I'd have my recovery day where I'd really give myself permission not to work. I realized, like, oh, my body needs this contraction. There are natural contractions. Our whole world is set up, like you said, with the the caterpillar. We go through, you know, same thing with our menstrual cycles, with any cycles, with
Mm.
any seasonal cycles. There are phases of, productivity and like heightened energy, and then of coming out of that and settling and rest and regeneration that's needed. And so we can see this mirrored outside of us. So why do we think that we can just sustain like as much as possible? It's just it's not realistic. We are there, we live in a physical body. Like there are actual needs that our body has. And so I started to play with, okay, like if I give myself space, like if I schedule in the space for a contraction, right? For my body to naturally have an experience of like being out of sorts and getting to sit outside and getting to write, like, this sucks and why do I feel like this? And I'm just going to move around and I'm going to take deep breaths and I'm going to read my book and I'm going to go get a soak in a saltwater tank or go get some hands-on work. When I did that, I realized I wasn't then getting sick, because what was happening is I was traveling and I was continuing. And then like 2 days later, I'd like totally break down and I'd have a cold. I have an allergy flare up. I'd have a pain flare up. I hold a lot of pain in my physical structure. So there were ways that without creating the space for contraction and overriding that need, my body moved into collapse. And so
Mm.
my investigation became, okay, how do I know and expect and plan for and honor that contraction is necessary and essential so that I don't knock myself out for a week or longer.
Absolutely. And I love how you've described that recovery days, because it is so important, like you were saying, to be able to honor that contraction and to plan for it. It's something that I recognized. I do host Akashic Record immersion. So it's 2 days, very intensive, they're beautiful immersions, but I definitely need a downtime afterwards. And we used to run them on a Saturday and Sunday. Then I recognized people going straight into work on the Monday. So now we do Friday to Saturday. So they've
Oh,
kind
I
of got
love
that
that.
that Sunday sort of compression time, integration time
Yeah,
before Monday, and it honors that cycle so much better, holding it that way. There's some very practical things that we can do to honor that, rather than this sort of identity that so many of us can hold of the, I've got to keep going, I've got to keep going, I've got to keep going, and then making ourselves wrong around
right.
the body, honoring the body. The body actually needs to rest.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we do, it then creates this opportunity for everything to work so much more efficiently, for us to have access way more to our gifts and our creativity and our potential when we're creating the space. And, more recently this year, I've been really working to at least take like a full day off of work, because I'm so good at like fitting in little pieces. And I'm a realm merger. I'm moving from homeschooling into seeing clients, into a podcast interview, into hosting my own interviews, and just weaving in and out of these spaces. So it's so easy for me to just, for a couple hours, for just an hour, for just 15 minutes
Mm.
here, for just this here. And so I really made this commitment of like, okay, like what would happen if, when I give myself like a full day off where I'm not checking email, I'm not going on social media? Because even when I go on social media, just quick for myself, I'm sucked into work groups. I'm sucked into this post that I know that I could comment on and offer advice on, right? Like I get sucked into work because I like my work. I love my work. I like being in it. So when I create the space, the one day, so we're building in, contraction opportunities after big things, right? But then also, how are we incorporating this on a regular basis, on a daily basis in microdoses, on a weekly basis? So for me, my day off, I've been taking it. I have some work days. My husband's on that are more on the weekend. So like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are like my days. So I've been doing this on the Saturday. My Sundays and Mondays, so productive. Like I can't believe how much I get done, how clear my head is, how excited, like excited activation that I'm in to like be in the process because I've had a break, because I've had a mental break, an
Mm.
emotional break, a physical break from doing all the things. And yeah, and that evidence really helped me like keep choosing it.
Uh,
Like,
Making
oh,
good decisions. Yeah, this is working. It's that thing when I used to manage teams in social services, and people would come to me saying, I'm so overwhelmed, there's so much to do, I can't take a holiday, I can't take a break. And I'd be like, go and take a break right now. I'm literally banning you from being in the office for, for the rest of the
yeah,
week. Take it off, because it's just that sign of like burnout is imminent.
yes,
If you're, you're like you're saying, your productivity just goes down tenfold. You're much better taking that contraction time, honoring it, allowing
yeah.
the recovery to come in, and then you'll probably get everything that was on that plate done in like half a day.
Right. And I'm also finding too, like on my pauses or when I create space, or last year I started a ritual for myself of going away alone without my kids 4 times a year. So like once a quarter for the whole weekend. And those are no work weekends. And so having those on the calendar, knowing intellectually and my nervous system knowing, hey, your out is coming, your break
Mm.
is coming, right, allows me to settle into the space and see that spaciousness so that my system can keep holding all the pieces. I do a lot. I mean, so many of us are doing so much and we're holding so much, and I can, because I've really prioritized this. If I wasn't prioritizing the contraction spaces in the way that I have been, I wouldn't be able to sustain the amount of work that I do, the amount of coordination that I do to, run my household, to navigate my kids, to, facilitate homeschooling, to be a good partner. I mean, there's so many different aspects of life that we want to have energy for, that we want to have clarity for, that we want to show up for. And then doing so opens up all the space. And I have to say, magic things happen in those downtime days. Like that's when I get 3 new inquiries for a hands-on session, or someone booking in for, one of my energetic intensives, or someone inquiring about, one of my 6 months, for a coaching program. And then I have to work really hard to not respond that day if it's coming through in my messages. But it's amazing what happens when we open up the space. And I know you talk about this in your communities all the time. When we clear it out, when we open it up, it creates room for more of the good to come in, for more money to come in, for more abundance to be here, for more of the things that we really want in order to be thriving in our businesses and our lives.
Exactly. It's the bit where the way I talk about it with my clients is, you've done your work, you've done your bit, and now you need to create space so the universe can do her bit.
Yes.
She's taking action, doing her thing. You just need to hold the frequency of your desires, and to be able to allow your body to relax so you can receive. Now that's the bit
Yeah.
to receive. That does take trust, doesn't it? To be able to, like you were saying, like I've got to sit on my hands so I don't respond in that
Yeah.
moment, because then you're kind of breaking that contractual agreement with yourself that is your time. Not honoring being able to honor our boundaries that we set for ourselves, our personal boundaries. Like that is my personal boundary for time for me. This is my personal boundary. This is time for the business. That is so important in terms of being able to manage the nervous system, but also then from when we're talking about being able to hold more money, as we honor our boundaries, it creates that sort of energetic container for us to be able to hold more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's so much around the boundaries and our subconscious being able to then trust ourselves and our nervous system to be able to listen to what we're saying and know that it's okay. This is my
Yeah.
downtime, and I know she's going to honor it, so I don't need to panic and freak out.
Exactly. And I always know, like, when my system is clicking into like bitterness and frustration and resentment that like I've, not honored a boundary in some way, or I'm overdue for a space like for myself in some way. Like that's really always my sign when I'm kind of clicking into that, so that I then can create the space and then, like you're saying, be in this frequency and vibration of trust, which I mean, that's taken time. It's taken a lot of years of feeling what that feels like in my system and allowing that to spend time there and working through all of those, unconscious patterns around what that means for my ancestry and what that meant for my immediate family and what that could mean for me. And then in moments of doubt, really doubling down and, going back to the evidence in my experience. But when I did not have evidence yet, it was like looking at other people as, expanders, or as those mirroring for my neurons around, oh, they're doing it. So that's my evidence. I'm going to do it too. They're taking big space. They're holding a lot. Awesome. That's showing me, that's showing my brain, showing my nervous system that this is possible. And what does it feel like, so that I can really imprint that in my own system, so that that gets to be my baseline now, as opposed to sort of the older frequency or older vibration, or what I would call for me my old being. I'm new. I'm different. I'm a new person than I was when I was working at the high school. So when that imprint comes back in, it's like, nope, like we're in this new frequency. And this is what we're
Mm.
holding.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, there's so much here. Just to kind of bring it all together, what would you
Yeah.
say would be your like thinking about this, and the leaders that are listening, what are 3 tips for entrepreneurs, leaders, CEOs that are growing to that next level that you would say, right, these are the 3 things, from your perspective to prioritize?
Yeah. So I love this question. And again, I think depending on the day, what my answer would be different. But I think what we're talking about is the space, like creating space and protecting the space, and in 3 different ways. Like what are you doing daily, and how do we weave that in, right? Because I think sometimes we can get, well, I don't have time to take an hour or 3 hours or whatever. Cool. Like on your walk to the bathroom and on your walk back from the bathroom, like, can you feel into the bigness? Can you check in with your body? Can you be checking in with what you need? Because there's so much when we're full and we're running our businesses and we wanting to do well, where we're overriding basic needs. So so the first thing I would say is the creating space in small daily ways, weekly, and then, if you can build in quarterly longer times where you're getting a whole day or an overnight or even a weekend, like that for me has been what's really allowed like lots of quantum leaps and expansion for myself, because I'm really going deep on my rest days. I'm really allowing the recalibration and the space to have my contractions and my tantrums and my emotional expressions and any integration that's needing to happen. If I don't have that, I'm not going to be as clear of a channel for my work with clients and for my creative process. So definitely like creating and honoring the space that feels like this is the most important. And then the second thing I'll say in weaving in with that is honoring needs, like really checking in with ourselves on a regular basis. Our nervous system wants to be shown that we're listening, because so many of us have ignored it for so long. So, at a basic level, we can start by acknowledging basic needs. Our nervous system communicates through sensation. So, like, are you going to the bathroom when your body has to pee? Like, are you getting up from your desk when your back hurts? Are you going to the kitchen to grab an orange when you're feeling depleted and like you need some nutrition? Like, really honoring the small ways that our body is communicating, because that will help us down the line with bigger things and help us connect more to our intuition and our yeses and our nos when we're listening at that deep level. So creating the space, and then on a regular basis, like for new clients, like I used to have an alarm go off every couple of hours. What do you need right now? Like very,
Mm.
very simple. It seems silly, but we're ignoring it. We're not listening. We're not paying attention. And so reconnecting to that really shows the body, shows the nervous system that we're here, we're in line with it, and then that really then allows us to get real big in the ways we want.
Oh, I love that. I love those tips. I think those are really practical, so helpful for everyone to be able to, yes, I can do that. Because that's what we need, is things that we can actually implement straight away in in our lifestyle, in our business, to be able to start to, and to recognize that it can be those simple little things that start to really help us to anchor in some of the bigger things that we're wanting to achieve with our businesses, and for our bodies to be able to have the capacity to hold it all.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I love this so much, Sarah. I could talk to you all day about this. I know you've got an incredible free gift. I was enjoying reading it earlier. Do you want to tell us about it? How can people get it? I know I've got the link, so I can put the link below. And how can people come and step into your world and tell us all the things?
Sure. Yeah, so I have like a PDF workbook about expanding our capacity by nourishing our nervous system and talking about very similar things that we're talking about today, like giving ourselves permission and honoring for creating the space so that our nervous systems are really well nourished. From my lens, I know everyone has different education and different ways in. From my training and my lens, this starts with our nervous system. If our nervous system isn't cared for, if we're not allowing cycles of expansion and contraction, if we're not allowing for breakdowns and emotional processing and all those things, our body really breaks down and then it gets in our way in a really big way for all the things that we're wanting to do. So for me and my clients, this starts with really taking care of our bodies, of how our body is communicating. And so that guide will lead you step by step with some practical invitations and some reflections to be in around creating space and some ideas on for what you might already be doing for nourishing your nervous system. And I think what's really important about all of this is that I'm not in anybody's body. You're in your own body and we all need different things. And so it's about trying different things and seeing for your own system. I think so often we're looking for like the one expert to tell us or the doctor to tell us what to do or how to be. And really, my work a lot with clients is learning, helping people learn their own systems and how their body is communicating and what is needed for their frequency, for their essence, for their being, and for their physical structure as well. And so that guide with the link, you throw in your email and you'll get that right to your box. You click, it opens up and you have all of that access to the guide. And and then you can find me on my website. So for any athletes or folks that know about athletes, that's a peakperformwithsara.com. And then for my regular healing work and my somatic coaching and consultation, my website is saravatore.com, and I don't have an H at the end of Sara. So sometimes people are like, I didn't find you. And they're adding the H, so no H. And on my website, I mean, I've had it for 8 years. So there's 8 years of a blog on there, lots of different kinds of resources. You can find out all about like the different kinds of services that I offer. One of my newest offerings that I'm just so lit up about is I keep having like practitioners and coaches contact me wanting consultation, like on a tricky case or something's coming up in a dynamic. So I've been doing these one-off sessions for people who are holding space for others who are looking for a nervous system perspective. You share your case with me, and then I give you some insights around how to help support some of those sticky things that can show up in our containers. So if anyone is looking for some of that support, I have one-on-one retreats in there in New England. If you're in, the US and want to come out to my way, for lots of virtual offerings in there as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I
Yeah,
really encourage everybody to download the PDF. It's a beautiful free gift. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I do hope you'll come back, because I know there's so much more that we could dive
yeah,
into for
I
this
love that.
conversation. So you've got an open invitation to
Oh,
come back.
awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise and for our conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for having me so much. Yeah.
You're so welcome. And thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. We would love to hear what resonated for you. So please do share on social media, share this episode with anyone that you think that would benefit from our conversation. And until next time, sending you all loads and loads of love. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.